Good evening, and welcome to the Elgin High School Band's virtual event on today, December 17, 2020. Now, 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of us, and to us at the Elgin High School Band, we've not been exempt from these challenges. We've been remote learning since March the 13th. March the 13th, that's a very, very long time. Those times, however, have not been without some really great examples of learning and collaboration. And we hope to share some of those things with you this evening. Throughout the course of the semester, the students and I have been engaged on working on a piece called Heroes Near and Far. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to get together to record this piece, but one of the things that we were able to do was to work on one of the best parts about this piece. This piece was composed by Richard Saucedo in collaboration with leadership consultant Mr. Scott Lang. And one of the things that Mr. Lang and Mr. Saucedo did when working on this piece was they incorporated into each of the 5 movements a value, courage, vision, selflessness, compassion, and heroism that each movement's music demonstrated. And with each of these values came a project, an activity, something the students had to do in order to more explore that value. For courage, the students made historical videos about people from their past that were important to them. For vision, they came up with SMART goals. They took the time to plan their future. For compassion, they had the opportunity to look at their family and to make art projects to help with their family and help them understand their family better. For selflessness, they were able to engage in service, both remote and in person, to help their community. And finally, they wrote letters to heroes, to local heroes, to heroes all over the country, and invited them to share their experiences about why they were able to be the leader that they were and what value in particular was important to that. So in this presentation, you're going to see all of that. You're also going to see a little bit about our in-person time that we did have the chance to spend. So I hope you enjoy, and I'm really happy you joined us tonight.
Movement for Heroes Near and Far, courage. We studied the value of courage as it pertains to our heroes and heroes in general. Students were asked to research a historical figure or famous hero and give a short video response about that person. These are some of the highlights.
When we think of courage, we think of a physical act of strength and valor, but courage is so much more than that. The ability to speak your mind, no matter what others might think, is one of the most courageous things a person can do. For this reason, I decided to choose Jordan Peele as my courageous historical figure. In 2017, Peele created his masterpiece of a film, Get Out, which focused on the black race in America while adding in some of his comedic flair and sci-fi aspects. It was this film that made me want to pick Peele. Having watched it myself, I'm astounded at how meaningfully Peele can convey his point about a topic that not many people have the courage to stand so firmly to. Speaking what is on your mind is probably the most courageous thing someone can do, and I admire those who can do it so effortlessly.
And why I chose my son Luis, he's one of my favorite actresses and models, and he showed the world that anything is possible and that we can learn languages and careers like he did growing up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily, and today I'm going to be talking about someone that I look up to. A person that I look up to or see as courageous is Selena Quintanilla. She is known as the Queen of Tejano. Her life, legacy, and accomplishments will continue to live on through her fans and family. I look up to Selena because she started her career of singing at such a young age and never gave up until she got where she wanted to be. She was capable of anything she put her mind into, and she is greatly missed by her millions of fans.
Okay, so somebody that I look up to is probably somebody like Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler he got kicked out of his house at 13, so he was homeless at 13, and even though he was homeless, he found a way through basketball.
I think that LeBron James is courageous and heroic because he started a school in 2018 in his hometown. It provided resources to the students and supportive skill development and constant encouragement.
Also known as Don Pepe. I wanted to choose someone from Costa Rica because I don't know much about the country and the history of the country that my family came from and its history. So I decided to use this project as an opportunity to look that kind of stuff up. Basically, this man was a rebel leader in the Costa Rican Civil War. It wasn't like the American Civil War, how it's between two people. This was actually between the people and the government. What happened that there was this president, Calderon. He wanted to keep his presidency for longer than he was supposed to, doing this through corrupt ways, even recruiting the president after him, Picado. And it just got so corrupt and so bad to the point that the people had no choice but to, have a civil war.
The courageous person I'll be talking about is Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony was an American social reformer and women's rights activist who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. And 14 years later, after she died, the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, was ratified into the Constitution. She shows a lot of courage in doing that. And she's just someone that was very brave and yet again very courageous to go and vote against the law. How do you do that? That's crazy, but yeah.
To me, Saint Maria Goretti was very heroic and courageous. The reason I chose her is because she is my confirmation saint. So I had done a lot of research on her already, and I thought she is really powerful. Like, she's very courageous. She's very heroic to other people. Like, she took over the man's job of household work. That was only her. She refused to be raped. She did all these things to help her family, and she died forgiving a man who tried to rape her and stabbed her a lot. She's a role model for a lot of women out there.
Hi, my name is Matt, and one person that I find a hero, not in my life in general, but just out of all the heroes out there, is Sir Winston Churchill. To be honest, just the fact that he was brave enough to go into World War II knowing how bad the Nazi army was, and just the motivation and the persuasion in his speeches just really shows how much of a hero he is. And the fact that he succeeded in doing such, that's really good. And because of that, I see Winston Churchill as my favorite hero.
Hi, my name is Chloe Horn. For my hero, I chose someone who has just died recently, and it is a tragic loss. Former Associate Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been an inspiration to many. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is an amazing example of courage. She persisted, even through sexist questions from her college professor, a lack of job opportunities, and a society that thought that a woman's place is in the home. She broke gender barriers and has set many precedents that are bringing us closer to equality. She was an inspiration to young girls like me, who want to be a lawyer when they grow up. To stand up to the patriarchy, to challenge people's perception of women, and to fight for equality all make her extremely courageous and a wonderful role model. She will be missed.
There have been many individuals in the past that have demonstrated courage, but one that stands out is Amelia Earhart. I chose Amelia Earhart not only because she showed courage in the face of physical dangers, but also in the face of societal dangers. In the 1900s, women were not viewed the same as men, and they were expected to do more quote-unquote ladylike behaviors and ladylike careers. However, Amelia was passionate about flying, and despite that not being in the societal norm, she did it, therefore demonstrating courage. As a teen, on the cusp of adulthood, I understand what societal pressures mean to your actions and how they can affect what you do. And so I'm therefore inspired by Amelia Earhart's courage to overcome these societal pressures to do what she is passionate about.
The person I chose that demonstrated courage is Ralph Lozo. Ralph Lozo was a Mexican American that was born in Los Angeles in 1925. In 1942, when he was still in high school, the government issued the internment of people of Japanese descent. Because most of his friends were of Japanese descent, he actually went to an internment camp with them. This made him the only non-Japanese, non-spouse to voluntarily go to an internment camp. The reason I chose Lazo was because he stood up for people when they could not stand up for themselves. And him joining the internment camp was a selfless and courageous thing for him to do.
This is the story of a young girl you've probably never heard of before. Kate Shelley, the girl who saved the train. July 6, 1881, and a violent storm had caused the Des Moines River to flood, sweeping away pieces of homes and bridges with it. Kate had watched this destruction from her homestead, that is, until a train bridge gave out, taking an entire test train with it. She knew this test engine was only a precursor for a passenger engine which would soon come, and the 4 men in the river was nothing compared to the 200 passengers which would soon arrive. So, Kate donned a jacket and ran into the storm. I first stumbled upon Kate's story on a website known as Rejected Princesses, and I thought that hers was particularly courageous. Most women that you see showing courage in stories are ones related to war, but this one was particularly interesting because despite the river taking both her brother and her father at the time, she braved her fears and went through nevertheless to save the lives of those who she probably didn't even know.
Alright, so today I want to talk about Jehu Jones Jr. He was the first African-American Lutheran pastor and was born in Charleston, South Carolina on September 4th, 1786 to slave parents Jehu Sr. and Abigail Jones. Jones also involved himself in organizations dedicated to improving the living conditions among Philadelphia's African Americans. I chose Jehu because to me he is the definition of courage. He built a church from the ground up. He stayed through all the tough times.
A historical figure that I strongly believe showed immense courage at a time where she was able to accomplish the impossible is Elizabeth Jane Cochrane, or better known by her pen name, Nellie Bly. She expressed interest in writing a story about the immigrant experience, however the editor declined it. The editor did challenge her to investigate one of New York's most notorious mental hospitals. She accepted the challenge, pretending to be ill and invading the hospital for 10 days. She was able to document all of the mistreatment that was done by the doctors to the mental patients, And her writing is what caused a lot of awareness to come towards these mental facilities. If it weren't for this, a lot of barbarian mannerisms used would still be applicable to mental asylum patients. I think Nellie Bly showed courage because she managed to be a woman who was able to have the same opportunities as men, but she had to fight twice as hard for them. And I believe we need more figures like Nellie Bly in modern society today, who are unwilling to stand down from what they believe in and will accept challenges with their full force.
And a hero that I think is courageous is Albert Einstein. I chose him because when he was a child, like I said, he wasn't very intelligent. So he had a hard time in school, and he had a hard time because he didn't want to learn things and memorize them. He wanted to learn and ask the teachers why things the way they were, how things work. And so it was very courageous of him to stand up and ask his teachers why things are and what they do. And he beat all the odds by becoming one of the greatest scientists to ever exist. So he's my hero because he asked questions and wondered why things were, although it wasn't expected for a child such as him to do something like that at his age and the school and the time that he went to, as long as with the location. So that is my report on my courageous hero that I thought was important, and I hope that one day I am at a level of his greatness or something like that. Yeah, that's it.
Hi Maroons, I'm your new principal, Jamie Croson. Yes, it's true, I was the principal on the other side of town for a few short years, but I am super excited about being your principal. As we return back to our buildings and back to normalcy this coming year, we look forward to seeing all of your faces and having you in our buildings. Maroon strong.
While learning the second movement of Heroes Near and Far, students were encouraged to create a vision plan for themselves. One of the most important aspects of having vision is having goals. Now, when we speak about goals in band, we talk about SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Your goals need to fit within these 5 frameworks, and if they do, then they are goals that are very easy to see whether or not you achieve them. You can check off that you accomplished. So I asked the students to set 3 goals for themselves. I said, please set 1 SMART goal for yourself for this school year for your personal growth. And here are some examples. I want to be able to jog 2 miles nonstop by the beginning of spring. I would like to talk to at least 2 new people this year. I would like to spend 45 minutes a day doing some sort of physical activity. Spend at least 5 minutes per day thinking positively about myself. Be at every Zoom meeting. These are examples of personal growth. And many students, in particular, set goals about their health, whether it be mental or physical. Next, I said, please set 1 SMART goal for yourself for your academic subjects. Many students talk about specific grades, receiving specific grades on AP exams or in class. A few spoke about having a specific GPA. And what was great about all these goals is they fit within the SMART goal framework. Now last, I asked them to set a SMART goal for themselves as it pertains to band. This year in band, I would like an A in my band classes. For band, I would like to be able to play higher notes. I want to improve my lung capacity, and they specified be able to play 3 or more counts on 60 beats per minute. To spend 10 more minutes on my practice sessions than I do today. This 2021 year, I will improve my jazz piano skills by being able to sight read 5 pieces every day.
Good evening. My name is Mrs. Foreman, and I'm the Assistant Principal of Humanities here at Elgin High School. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Sanchez for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to you, our band students, and to our band parents. And I wanted to say I'm so grateful that you've continued to stick with the band program even during this very challenging semester. The benefits of continuing to be involved in music, in a performance ensemble, and learning an instrument will continue to enrich your life throughout adulthood. So wonderful. Thank you for sticking with it. Congratulations for sticking with it. And I look forward to being able to see live performances someday soon in the future.
We all know the importance family can have in our lives. One of the ways family is important is when it comes to the value of compassion, which we oftentimes learn from them. While working on the third movement of Heroes Near and Far, we were given the opportunity to create small art projects to demonstrate this value in our own families.
Selflessness is an important value of a hero as well as those who like to lead. An important part of selflessness is service. Many heroes are heroes because of the service they provide for the community. Oftentimes, this service is completed with no expectation of return. While learning this music, students were asked to complete community service. Many of them found safe and no-touch ways to do this. Here are some examples.
While learning Movement 5 of Heroes Near and Far, the students were encouraged to write letters to heroes. Students selected many different kinds of people, from teachers to politicians to sports figures and so forth. Here are a couple of examples. This is a letter to Jane Elliott. Dear Mrs. Jane Elliott, I'm writing to thank you for your contribution to our growing society. Your desire to educate different communities on their commonly overlooked bias is beyond admirable. You have even encouraged me to be more active in bettering my community by encouraging and facilitating open discussions on mental health to help destigmatize the subject. As you know, the pandemic has forced many schools to go virtual, mine included. We have been charged with an assignment for my band class to write a letter to somebody we admire, and for me, that happens to be you. It would mean the world to me to hear back from you. But if you can't, that's okay. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And this one was written to our very own Mr. Tony Sanders. And I think it's important to note that a large percentage of the students in the band wrote letters to people within our school community. That's how important our school community is to our students. Mr. Sanders, I am a junior at Elgin High School. We were asked to choose someone outside our family who we believe is a hero as part of our virtual assignment for band. We are playing a song entitled Heroes Near and Far, and we have been given a different creative project for each of the 5 movements. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank you for everything you have done this year, and I believe that makes you a hero. You have made incredibly tough decisions for the greater good, the mark of a great leader. I know that you have received many messages from dissatisfied parents and students who believe that you made the wrong decision. I disagree. Yes, we want to be back in physical school with our peers, but saving lives is indefinitely more important than socializing. I know, like my peers do, how hard you and other administrators, our teachers, and school staff have been working tirelessly since the 13th of March to find ways to make school possible and effective. I believe that all school faculty across the world, especially here in the U.S., have not been receiving proper thanks and gratitude. So, thank you. Now, this letter is written to Captain Sullenberger, Miracle on the Hudson pilot. And I thought this was a very interesting person to select, so I decided to share this letter with you as well. Hello, and I am from the Elgin High School Band in Elgin, Illinois. I was asked by my band director to send a letter to a person that I saw as a hero for one of our upcoming pieces that we are playing, Heroes Near and Far. In this piece, it has several movements. Each title is a characteristic of a hero, such as courage, compassion, and selflessness. I chose to write this letter to you because I believe that you possess all of those qualities. In this letter, I was asked to ask you what in your life shaped you to possess and/or acquire these qualities. And if this is several events, feel free to share what you please. If you could, I was asked to ask you if a response would be possible. If you do receive this, thank you for taking the time to read it. Now, these are some great, wonderful examples of letters. Here's a couple of examples of some of the responses that our students received.
In high school, I did not know I was going to be a teacher. If you would have said that, I was no way, not a chance. But I didn't have a strong passion going into college, so I just went to community college, didn't know what I wanted to be, and then changed my major 3-4 times until I landed in my early 20s that I want to be a teacher. So I went to school, got my undergrad, passed all my state tests, graduated, and quickly found out that no one was really hiring PE teachers. And that the vision I had was to use my degree as I intended, and I will become a teacher. So it took me over 2 years just to get a job. I always applied. My longtime vision was me teaching and coaching in an area I grew up in, which is near Elgin. And that's where I was applying to. Quickly found out no one's giving me interviews. I applied to over 100 schools, so I branched out and decided to go to Chicago to teach. So I applied one summer, got 5 interviews like that, got a couple of job opportunities offered to me, and decided to take one that was in Little Village, which is the west side of Chicago, inner city. So drove almost an hour and a half each way, and I loved it. I loved it because I could see my dreams come true, being a teacher. I started coaching there as well too. They did not have a cross-country or track team, so I just started one up, and it was fun. So in the back of my head, I knew that this would help me get my ultimate goal, which would be teaching in the suburbs where I grew up and where I live. So I spent 5 years in Chicago teaching until I got the opportunity to teach in U46, where I started teaching in Elgin last year. And that whole process of that vision, of that backwards mapping, I knew I wanted to be a teacher in the district near to me, so I was going to do what I had to do short term because I knew long term it would pay off. And it has. I'm very fortunate to be a PE teacher at Hilltop Elementary, which is right by Elgin High School. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to coach at Elgin High School, something that I'm very passionate about. And without vision of me knowing or me envisioning what I want, I wouldn't get it done. So stay true to yourself. If you don't know what vision is yet, that is fine. I didn't know until my 20s. And it took me about 7 years, even once I started teaching, to end up where I want to end up. But when you do, it will be worth it. All the work, all the hiccups, and things don't go your way, it'll pay off big time. So hope you found this beneficial, and enjoy the rest of your day.
I know that you guys are studying heroes and have been talking about different values that heroes possess. And it got me thinking about the idea of vision. And if you can find your vision of who you are and where you want to go, that vision will continue to help focus you throughout your life, regardless of the situations that you may face and future challenges you may have to overcome. And so vision, I think, is really something that has helped me along the way. Knowing what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be has really helped get to me to where I am today, here with you guys at EHS. Great work so far in the semester. Good luck with the end of the semester. I look forward to seeing everyone soon in the building when we can be safe and healthy all together again. Bye. Take care.
When I learned cancer had spread to my lymph nodes, I was crushed.
not because I feared dying, but because I knew motherhood was a closed door. That moment was the catalyst that propelled me into a master's program for teaching. Since then, whenever anyone asks me or my husband whether we have children, we say yes, about 150 each year. 22 years later, my students continue to be blessings for both of us, bringing us joy each day. Sometimes we simply need to reframe our dreams for them to come true.
The value that I look at the most would have to be courage. Courage in growing up with a family of 9 that allowed me to take part in many different things, but courage was always a big element of what our family was and how we reacted. When I joined the service, it became an even bigger component of who I was, building what I was, and forcing me into doing things that I didn't believe I could do until I started doing them within the military. The courage was built not just within me, but of those around me. And understanding and knowing that when I had a situation to worry about, I had people who were there to support, guide, help. And that built up my courage. And that continued to grow into my later time spent in the military as a leader to develop those same skills for my soldiers. That courage was, in fact, the biggest component of everything that I designed. And when I created my classes, when I became a teacher, I used courage as the number one factor to help kids expose themselves to become better learners, unlike where I was at when I was a kid. So giving them that opportunity to develop and create on their own and see that they could take those necessary steps to become independent using that courage that they had.
So one of the values of heroes that I embrace and I appreciate is the value of selflessness. I believe that is giving of oneself, that's the true power of a hero, is being able to put your needs aside and supporting someone else to lift them up to get to their needs or their place in life.
Halftime. When both teams go into their locker room to discuss what they can do to win the game in the second half. It's halftime in our world, too. People are out of work and they're hurting. And they're all wondering what they can do to make a comeback. And we're all scared because this isn't a game. It seems like we've lost our heart at times when the fog of division, discord, and blame made it hard to see what lies ahead. But after those trials, we all rallied around what was right and acted as one. Because that's what we do. We find a way through tough times, and if we can't find a way, then we'll make one. It's halftime, and our second half is about to begin. My name is Mr. Sanchez, and I'm the band director here at Elgin High School. And I want to tell you that as a member of the Elgin High School band, you have a place where you belong. You have people that you can count on. And as your director, I will be your advocate. I'll be your person here at Elgin High School to help support you and guide you through this experience. So I would encourage you when signing up for classes to think band.
Think band.
Think band.
Think band.
Think band.
Alright, it's blues and F time. If it would load, that'd be cool. Alright. I wanted to eat something. So I pulled out the bread. And it
Morty instead.
Kicking it.
My friend, my faithful friend, speak to me, friend.
Our band held in-person marching band rehearsals at our school, outside on our practice field in the fall. Every person was required to self-certify and check in, make sure they showed no symptoms of anything, before they were allowed to participate in any capacity. And we were not allowed to play our instruments. We did bring them during the last few weeks just to learn how to hold them and what to do with them when we're marching. But we taught our newer members how to march. We learned some fun drill sequences and patterns that we were tested on at the end of our rehearsals. And overall, it was just really nice to see other people my age and for all of us to have the opportunity to socialize with people outside of our house.
In drumline, we were among the only students able to return to campus.
Every Thursday during the fall, we would get together and drummed.
We were able to do it safely because we could keep our masks on the whole time and stay distanced.
We also gave the first performance of the year performing for the freshman welcome groups.
Here are some of the highlights.
All right, so Mr. Sanchez here with Stephanie Skrabach here talking about the district ILMEA band festival that was held a little bit different this year. How did they do that this year, Stephanie? Because obviously it wasn't in person.
So we on November 21st, we logged into Zoom. We had a keynote speaker for about half an hour, and then we had 2-hour segments with two like teacher master classes. That's what it was.
Master classes. So for those of you that don't know what a master class is, in music circles, a master class is usually an expert on a particular instrument that will demonstrate, that will teach some people and give some information specific to that instrument. In this case, Stephanie was representing us on clarinet. She was our EHS representative for band. So tell us about the keynote speaker, who it was, and what they talked about.
So the keynote speaker was Barry L. Hauser. He works at University of Illinois. And one thing he talked about was how band students adapt to their environment. And he talked about how you can put like a carrot, an egg, or coffee beans in water. Carrot, you put them in, it softens. Egg, you put them in, it just gets harder. But coffee beans, they turn it into coffee. They adapt to their environment. So he talked about that, and he talked about taking advantage of the opportunities that you can as a band student during this time, and still giving that 100%, living to that high standard.
Talk to me now. You said you had 2 sessions, clinic sessions. So why don't you give us the highlights of each session?
So the first clinic session, the masterclass teacher was Christina Tuschler, and her presentation was called "Don't Limit Yourself, Don't Limit Your Audience." And it was mainly about how you can either like limit yourself with music or you can expand what you do. So being exposed to like just different styles of music, and like when you're practicing, just being open to just doing a lot of different things. And she showed us some clarinet players who from all around like different styles, some very traditional like classical, but there were also a lot of like different like jazz interpretations, a lot of, even when there was like with like technology that was kind of cool, that had a lot of experimental stuff. And then the second part of that talked a lot about diversity in music, and how limiting yourself doesn't just expose to just the music itself. You can also talk about the people that participate in music. And so stuff like diversity and equity in music, and how, for example, like when we think of music theory, we think of Mozart and Beethoven, and it's really just white guys from Europe, and how that doesn't really represent all of what music is. And when we do that, we sort of limit who we think can be true geniuses in music. And then she gave us some resources on like some famous Black and Latino composers, some resources to go get more music from these composers. And she mainly talked about that.
What was the second clinic about?
So the second clinic was more specific to just clarinet stuff. It was hosted by Sam Rothstein, and he mainly just talked about like specific clarinet equipment, and just talked about like reeds, different instruments like for like upgrading. And the first half was him just talking about like specific things related to clarinets, and then the last half was a Q&A session, so a lot of people just got to ask their questions.
And that was, so you did ILMEA district band last year as a freshman. You did it this year as a sophomore. So when you did it as a freshman in a traditional way, did you have the opportunity to interact with a professional on your instrument like you did this year?
I did like having that opportunity, because you could tell it was specific for us. Even the first master class, although it wasn't really talking a lot about like clarinets, she was still a clarinet person, and so she could bring in examples that were specific to us, which, although like in past years it's nice to have like just being in a band, but this year it was nice to, you know, be specific. It's for us.
Here are some clips from the students' recent holiday music recording.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you and your family have a healthy, safe, restful holiday season. Good night.